Chapter 9. The Swarm. I've never been one to panic. I've hiked through the wilderness, camped in the roughest terrains, and faced a dozen different fears. But nothing could prepare me for what happened that night. The first sign that something was wrong came just after sunset. We'd set up camp in a remote clearing at the edge of the forest. It was a quiet spot, nestled between towering trees with a gentle stream nearby and a view of the mountains in the distance. The kind of place where you could forget everything and just breathe. There were 6 of us: myself, Alex, Kate, Max, Liam, and Sarah, friends from college who had come together for this long weekend escape. We sat around the fire, roasting marshmallows and sharing stories, the warmth from the flames giving us comfort against the cool evening air. But as the sun sank lower, the forest grew darker, and the sounds of the night began to stir. The usual hum of insects, the distant calls of birds, the rustle of animals moving through the underbrush, they were all gone. There was only silence. It wasn't natural. Silence like that in the wilderness was always the first warning. "I think I hear something," Max said, breaking the uneasy quiet. He squinted into the darkness beyond the firelight, his voice uncertain. "It's like a buzzing sound." Kate leaned forward, her brow furrowing. "Buzzing? It's probably just some bugs. They're always loud around here." But I could hear it too now, a low, vibrating hum, like a swarm of bees, but deeper, more resonant. It wasn't just the usual background noise of insects. This was something else. I looked at Alex, who had gone unusually quiet, his gaze fixed on the trees beyond the firelight. I couldn't see his face clearly in the dark, but I could tell something was off. His shoulders were tense, and his hands gripped his knees tightly. He seemed on edge. "You hear that too?" I asked. Alex nodded slowly. "Yeah, it's not normal." "Let's just ignore it," Sarah said, trying to sound calm, though her voice was shaky. "It's probably nothing." But the buzzing grew louder, more insistent, and I noticed something even stranger. The temperature around us had suddenly dropped, sharply, as if a cold front had swept through. I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck prickle as the hum intensified. Something was wrong, but I couldn't explain why. My instincts were screaming at me to pack up and leave, but I pushed the thought aside. It was probably just my mind playing tricks. We sat in an uncomfortable silence, the air growing thicker with each passing minute. Then, without warning, a flicker of movement near the trees caught my eye. At first I thought it was an animal, perhaps a deer or a raccoon, but it wasn't. It was a shadow, a shape, large and irregular, darting between the trees. Then another and another. They were moving fast, circling us. I stood up quickly, my heart hammering in my chest. "Did anyone else see that?" The others looked at me in confusion, but Max's face went pale. I saw something moving, just outside the firelight. "What is that?" Before anyone could answer, a shrill, high-pitched screech shattered the air, followed by a loud buzzing sound, almost deafening in its intensity. It wasn't like any insect I had ever heard. It was unnatural, like it was coming from something not of this world. A swarm erupted from the trees, filling the air above us. The creatures were insect-like, but they were huge, their bodies armored with black exoskeletons that reflected the firelight. Their wings beat in unison, creating the sound of a storm, and their glowing eyes fixed on us with an intelligence that made my stomach churn. Liam screamed. The swarm swooped down on us like a living cloud, descending from all sides. We scrambled to our feet, knocking over the campfire as we tried to escape, but there was no running. The creatures were everywhere. They buzzed around us, their wings a blur of motion. I saw Max swat at one of them, but it was too fast, and it darted back towards him, its sharp pincers closing around his neck. He gasped, his body jerking violently, but then he went still, His eyes glazed over, his mouth open in a silent scream. He fell to the ground, and I saw the creature retreat, its legs folding beneath it as it flew away. "We have to get out of here," I shouted, grabbing Sarah's hand and pulling her towards the edge of the clearing. But something strange happened. As I pulled her, I felt the buzzing in my mind. It wasn't just in my ears anymore. It was inside my head. The same hum I had heard earlier had now become a constant drone, vibrating through my thoughts, filling my mind with static. Sarah stopped. "Alex, what's happening?" Her voice cracked as she looked at the others, panic rising in her eyes. Alex was still staring blankly into the sky, his eyes unblinking. He wasn't even moving. He was connected to the swarm. I could see it now, as the creatures flew past him and settled on his skin, their bodies crawling across him like they were feeding, burrowing inside his very being. His body jerked, then stilled, and when he opened his eyes again, they weren't his. They were dark, empty, void of any emotion. "They've got him," Kate whispered. He's not the same." I wanted to scream, to do something, but I couldn't. The buzzing in my mind was too strong, overwhelming. My body felt numb, my skin slow like I was moving underwater. I tried to shake it off, to break free, but the more I fought, the more the creature's presence inside me grew. And then I realized the swarm wasn't just attacking us physically. It was infiltrating our minds, taking control. I felt the pressure, the weight of it in my skull, the creature's thoughts slipping into mine like they had been there all along. "Get away from him," Sarah cried, pulling me back as the creatures began to swarm over Alex's body, wrapping around his limbs, pushing their way under his skin. But it was already too late. Alex was gone. In a moment of sheer terror, I turned and ran, not knowing where I was going, just knowing that I had to get away from that thing. I didn't hear Sarah behind me, didn't look back. The swarm was still chasing us, but this time something worse was happening. The air was thick with their presence, and I felt it pressing against my chest like a vice, choking me. I ran, but the buzzing didn't stop. I could still hear it in my mind, louder now, whispering to me, taking me. And then the ground beneath me shifted. The earth rumbled, just like it had earlier, and I stumbled. I reached out, grabbing the nearest tree to steady myself, but the buzzing grew unbearable. The force inside my mind was overwhelming. I fell to my knees, clutching my head, and a scream tore through me. But it wasn't the one screaming. It was them. It was the swarm. It was speaking through me. "You are ours now." The ground shifted again, and I saw a shadow moving above me. The creatures were pulling at my limbs, lifting me off the ground, their pincers digging into my skin. I couldn't breathe. The darkness closed in. And then everything went quiet. I woke up sometime later. My body was sore, my skin raw, and when I opened my eyes, the forest around me was still. There was no buzzing, no creatures, just the silence of the night. I staggered to my feet, shaking, but something was wrong. I felt different. Something was inside me, crawling beneath my skin. I reached up to touch my face and froze. My reflection in the water of the nearby stream was not my own. The eyes staring back at me were no longer human. And then I understood. I had been chosen. The swarm didn't just control us, it took us. And now, as the last survivor, I was its vessel. I wasn't alone anymore, and the swarm was just getting started.
Thank you for listening to this story. Your support means a lot and helps keep these tales coming. If you enjoyed it, please take a moment to subscribe and follow for more dark and immersive stories just like this one. New horrors await. Don't miss what's coming next.